My name is Philip Udezue. I'm a real estate consultant and developer, and also a project manager. Joint venture, a kind of business engagement that brings 2 or 3 parties together to achieve a defined business objective or goal. It depends on the particular type of joint venture you're going into. For joint venture to be described as a legal entity, that means that joint venture should have been incorporated either as a corporation or as a limited liability company, differentiating it from the parties that are involved. Certain joint ventures are not legal entity in the sense that 2 people might pool resources together to do a one-off transaction, either transportation or marketing, and both of them will be operating on their individual business name. In such a situation, because it's not registered, you won't take that to be a legal entity, because they are operating on their either private names or individual company names without any legal backing by the law, which was what that will make it a legal entity. In a joint venture, the sole aim of the joint venture is that 2 or more parties are coming together to do a transaction. In as much as that transaction is going on, they are also operating as individuals, either in their business capacity or in their private capacity. While in partnership, the parties come together, either 2 or 3 parties come together to form an alliance or organization to carry out a business activities. Either there will be one of the parties might be a passive partner or a general partner. They are not operating outside that partnership, so they will lose the right to run their individual affairs or to run other corporations if they are active in that partnership, unless one is a passive member of the partnership. So he's just contributing money and he's not participating actively in the partnership. Under that circumstance, he can also run his private company or private business. Joint venture has a lot of advantages, starting from, first of all, what brings about joint venture? What brings about joint venture is that when a party does not have the capacity to achieve a certain business objective, and he feels that there's a very big potential in that business undertaking, but he does not have the capacity to do it on his own, he will start looking for alliance or people that he can go into a joint venture transaction with. By so doing, he will have access to more resources. He will also share the risk that is associated with that business. At the same time, he will have access to different expertise. Like, a real estate agent that have not done construction in the past might want to go into a joint venture, seeing the potential in real estate development. If he might have the money, but he does not have the expertise or the wherewithal to do that development. If you get somebody that is in the construction industry, that person will bring in his own idea or his own knowledge or expert in construction business, and both of them will now pool the resources and the expertise from the guy from the construction industry and go into a joint venture. So joint venture gives you bigger capacity to do things, bigger resources, bigger awareness, better connection and exposure. The disadvantage of a joint venture partner is that in some cases, they might lead to litigation if all the terms are not spelled out. And again, each individual organization or persons have their culture or way of doing things. So by the time you are going into an alliance or a joint venture with another entity, maybe 2 or 3 other people, those people will come also with their own background, their own culture, their own work ethics. And if care is not taken, if the parties don't marry their work ethics or their work culture, it might lead to conflict. And if this conflict comes up, all the benefits or the aspiration of going into that joint venture will be lost. In some cases, if it's a project that would have taken 1 year to complete on your own, if you go into litigation or trying to get approval of all the parties, this takes time. And you lose time, you might also lose scope, the challenge is the challenge of everyone trying to be heard in the joint venture is also an issue. Joint ventures are numerous types. First of all, what determines the kind of joint venture somebody will go into is from the background that person is coming from. For instance, there are joint ventures that are made based on credibility. A party might have all the resources to do a project on his own, but because that party is new to the industry, let's take for instance real estate development. There are some names or real estate developers that are already a brand name in the industry. So if you are coming into real estate development, for instance now, but you are not a brand name, nobody have ever tested you and trusted you, you might go into an alliance with a real estate developer again that have already gotten the credibility from the society, have a clientele base and a customer base. You are just bringing that developer into that joint venture because of the credibility he have already established over time. So that kind of joint venture is being done based on credibility from the real estate partner you are trying to bring in. Then another type of joint venture is a connection. You might have all the resources, but you don't have the connection to do the transaction. For instance, in real estate business, a realtor might have an already made tenant that want a particular type of property they are looking out to, and you have the money to go, you have the financial strength, or even the expertise to go into that development, but you don't have the customer or the contact to get the customer to take up that development. You can also go into a joint venture with the person that had the connection. So what the person is bringing to the table is the connection, while you are bringing all the resources. So both of you will just agree on a profit-sharing formula. So that kind of joint venture is based on connection. There are joint ventures that are based on credit. Like if somebody is credit worthy, that you can borrow money from the bank, and you yourself, you don't have that level of credit to borrow money from the bank. You can get somebody that have that high credit level or score to get money from the bank. You go into a joint venture with him, and you tap into that is a credit score that you have that is very high, that bank can trust him and give him loan because of his name or his brand. If you go into a joint venture partnership with that kind of person, you will tap into that his credit rating and credit level. There are some joint ventures that are based on finance. Somebody might have finance like an investor. You have the money to put down, but he doesn't know where to put this money. And you yourself have the expertise to do a certain type of business, either transportation, e-commerce, or production. You can talk to the person and tell him that these resources you have, if we put it into this kind of use, it will going to give us more yield, rather than allowing that money to lie fallow in the bank. So that kind of joint venture is based basically on finance. Joint venture in real estate is something that is Nigerian property space is just witnessing. And it depends on the type of joint venture that we are looking at. One, it can work, the joint venture can come to be where a party says, I have land, but I don't know what to do with this land. I don't have the resources to develop this land. And you go out and look for an investor or another developer that have the wherewithal in terms of finance and expertise, and go into a joint venture with such person. Then how it's going to work is that, first of all, the two parties will be willing to go into the transaction. They'll have a single objective or goal to multiply their resources. The person that had the land and the person that is going to bring the finance for the development. The primary goal or primary objective both of them share is that I want to multiply the worth of what I have. The person that have the land, if the land is say worth 100 million, you will want at the end of the joint venture transaction that you will get a value of 100 million plus. And the person that is financing the project, maybe he's bringing in 100 million as well. You want at the end of the joint venture transaction, he will have above 100 million. So how it works in Nigeria is, first of all, the two parties will have a common interest. Now we want to increase our financial base or the worth of the investment that we have presently. Then either way, either the person that had the finance is looking for the person that had the land, or the person that had the land is also looking for the person that had the finance. Once both of them have agreed on a common principle, they will first develop what they call MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, articulating what they want to do, how they want to go about it. Are they going to use a third party to do the development? Or are they going to do it like a direct labor? And when these things are identified, what kind of investment, what kind of development would they go about doing? Are they going to build commercial property? Are they going to build a residential property? Is it a terrace house? Is it a one family home and things like that? What does the land value? What? What does the Land Use Act says for that particular land? Once these things are identified, then they will draw MOU. Every party will get its own lawyer to go through the MOU. And again, at this point, they will also determine if this transaction is going to be a legal entity or not. If this transaction is going to be something that will be continuous, a one-off transaction. Once all these things are identified and defined, they will go into articulating this in a MOU. If it's something that they want to register, either as a corporation or a limited liability company, at this point they will determine that, and they also do it, agree on profit sharing, and all these things will be put down in paper, and an agreement is drawn out of this, and they will go ahead and go into the transaction if both parties have agreed to the terms and conditions of the transaction. Minimum real estate joint venture is basically the return both parties will get at the end of the day. Joint land depends on what you are looking at. The joint venture land could be. Joint venture can own property. If you want to start a joint venture in real estate, first of all, it depends on, are you bringing expertise? Are you bringing finance? Are you bringing property?